Love is supposed to be the foundation of marriage, the glue that binds two souls together. That's what I believed when I married Emily 7 years ago. She was everything I had ever wanted, beautiful, intelligent, charming. From the moment I met her, I was captivated. I gave her my heart without hesitation, trusting her completely. Our life together seemed perfect. Mornings were filled with soft kisses, whispered "I love yous," and the warmth of her body curled against mine. We shared inside jokes, late-night conversations, and dreams of growing old together. I worked hard to provide a good life, and she, in turn, was my anchor, my safe place in a chaotic world. But love can blind a man. It can make him ignore warning signs, dismiss the gut feeling that something is wrong. And that's exactly what I did. It started with small things. Emily became more distant, her laughter no longer reaching her eyes. She started working late, her phone constantly buzzing with messages she never let me see. When I asked, she brushed off my concerns with a smile and a kiss. Just work stress, baby. Nothing to worry about. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But the distance between us kept growing. Then came the nights when she wouldn't come home at all. She claimed to be staying with friends, yet never mentioned their names. Her perfume smelled different, stronger, muskier, not the soft floral scent I had bought her. The intimacy we once shared faded, replaced by excuses and cold shoulders. I tried reasoning with myself. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe stress really was getting to her. But deep inside, a voice whispered the truth I wasn't ready to hear. Everything changed when I found the receipt. I wasn't looking for proof of betrayal. I didn't want to find it. But fate has a cruel way of showing you the things you refuse to see. Emily had left her purse on the kitchen counter one night. As I went to grab my keys, a small slip of paper peeked out. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled it out, my heart stopping as I read the details. Hotel Lux. 1-night stay. Paid in cash. The date? A night she had sworn she was working late. My hands trembled, my vision blurred. My mind screamed for a rational explanation, but deep down, I already knew. My wife, the woman I had vowed to love and cherish until death, was sleeping in another man's bed. The pain hit like a sledgehammer to my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. My knees nearly buckled as I leaned against the counter, gripping the receipt so tightly it crumpled in my fist. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted it to be some mistake. But deep down, the puzzle pieces fit too perfectly. The late nights, the secrecy, the change in her scent, she was cheating on me. A storm of emotions raged inside me, anger, heartbreak, humiliation. How could she do this? After everything we built, after all the love I poured into our marriage, how could she throw it all away? I needed to know the truth. I needed to see it with my own eyes. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every scenario playing in my mind. The next day, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. Locked. Of course. She had changed the password months ago. But that didn't matter. I already had enough proof. Still, I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed to catch her in the act. The following evening, Emily kissed me goodbye, claiming she had another late shift. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. But I forced a smile and nodded. Be safe, I murmured. The moment she walked out the door, I grabbed my keys and followed her. She drove across town, stopping at an upscale restaurant. My heart pounded in my ears as I watched from a distance. Minutes later, a man arrived. Tall, well-dressed, confident. He greeted her with a lingering touch on her lower back before they entered the restaurant together. Something inside me shattered beyond repair. I wanted to storm in, to demand answers, to scream in her face for betraying me. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I stayed hidden, watching as the woman I loved laughed with another man, a laugh she hadn't shared with me in months. By the time they left, hand in hand, the last shred of denial I had been clinging to disappeared. Emily wasn't just having an affair. She was in love with him. And just like that, my marriage was over. You said. The drive home felt unreal. My knuckles whitened around the steering wheel, emotions swirling like a hurricane, anger, heartbreak, betrayal. My wife, the woman I had sacrificed so much for, had been giving herself to another man. And I had just witnessed it with my own eyes. I parked in our driveway and sat in silence, staring at the house we had built together. Every memory, every promise, every moment that had once felt sacred now felt tainted. My mind raced, torn between confronting her immediately or waiting until I had calmed down. But calm was impossible. I was a man on the edge, my soul bleeding from wounds she had inflicted without remorse. Minutes crawled by. Then, headlights swept across the street. Her car pulled into the driveway. I watched as she stepped out, adjusting her dress, smoothing her hair, fixing herself after being with him. The front door creaked open. She walked in, her eyes locking onto mine. A flicker of something, guilt? Fear? Crossed her face before she masked it with a soft smile. "Hey, baby," she said, slipping out of her heels. "You're still up?" I didn't answer. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled hotel receipt. Slowly, I placed it on the table between us. Her smile faltered. "What's that?" I leaned forward, voice eerily calm. "You tell me." She hesitated, a muscle twitching in her jaw. It's nothing. Nothing." I let out a hollow laugh. "A hotel room, paid in cash, on a night you swore you were working late? That's nothing?" Panic flickered in her eyes. "I can explain." I slammed my palm against the table, making her flinch. "Then explain, Emily. Tell me who he is. Tell me how long this has been going on. Tell me why the woman I loved decided to throw away our marriage for a cheap affair." Tears welled up, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I had spent too long ignoring the signs, believing her lies. Now I wanted the truth. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak right away. Seconds stretched between us. Then, with a trembling breath, she whispered, "His name is Ryan." My stomach churned. The name meant nothing to me, yet it carried the weight of destruction. "How long?" My voice was barely above a whisper. She wiped at her eyes. "A few months." A sharp exhale left me. "A few months." My jaw clenched. While I was working my ass off to build a future for us. While I was here, loving you, you were sneaking around with him. "It wasn't like that," she cried. "I never meant for this to happen." "Bullshit." I shook my head, disgusted. "You chose this. Every text, every lie, every night in his bed, you chose to betray me. Don't stand there and act like it was an accident." She sobbed harder, shoulders shaking. "I was lost, okay? You were always busy, always working. I felt alone." Alone? A bitter laugh escaped me. "So, instead of talking to me, instead of telling me how you felt, you spread your legs for another man? That's how you fix things." Her face crumbled. "I never stopped loving you." I stared at her, disbelief washing over me. "You think this is love?" I gestured between us. "You destroyed me, Emily. You killed everything we had. Love doesn't do that." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away like her touch burned. "Please," she whispered. "We can fix this." Fix this? How could she be so delusional? My voice hardened. "I want a divorce." Her breath hitched. "No. No, you don't mean that." "I do," I said, steel in my tone. "You made your choice, Emily. Now, I'm making mine." She dropped to her knees, clutching my arm. "Please, don't do this. I made a mistake." "Stop calling it a mistake," I snapped. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. You didn't trip and fall into his bed, Emily. You made a decision, over and over again." She sobbed harder, but I felt nothing. The love I once had for her had been crushed beneath the weight of her betrayal. "You don't get to cry," I muttered, stepping back. "You don't get to be the victim." Her eyes, red and swollen, pleaded with me. "I don't want to lose you." "You already did." I turned, walking away as her cries filled the room. The marriage was over. And for the first time in a long time, I was done holding on to something that had already died. The days after our confrontation passed in a blur. I moved into the guest room, avoiding Emily at all costs. Our home, once filled with warmth, now felt like a battlefield of silence and shattered trust. She tried to talk to me, begging, pleading, promising she'd fix things, but I refused to listen. Her words meant nothing. I filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Emily broke down when she saw the papers. She clutched them to her chest, eyes wide with devastation. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "We can go to counseling." "I'll do anything, I swear." I exhaled sharply. "You should have thought about that before you cheated." Tears streaked her face. "I love you, I really do." I shook my head. "You love the idea of me. The security, the comfort, the life we built. But if you truly loved me, you wouldn't have done what you did." She collapsed onto the couch, hands trembling. "I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I thought he was exciting. That maybe I needed something different." I clenched my jaw, disgusted. "Something different? Was I not enough for you?" Her lip quivered. "It wasn't about you, it was about me. I got caught up in something that wasn't real." I scoffed. "Funny, because it sure as hell was real enough for you to risk everything for it." She sobbed into her hands, her shoulders shaking. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the way she had looked at him, the way she had smiled at him, touched him, kissed him. She had given a part of herself to another man. And now, she wanted me to pretend it never happened? No. She didn't deserve forgiveness. The divorce process. Over the next few months, we went through the motions of separating our lives. She fought for reconciliation, but I remained firm. There was no fixing this. Emily's friends took her side, claiming I was being too harsh. Some of them even had the audacity to say, "It was just a mistake. If you love her, you should give her another chance." I blocked them all. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The only person I spoke to was my lawyer. I wanted a clean break, no drawn-out battles. Emily, surprisingly, didn't fight for much. She knew she had no leverage. But then, 3 months into the process, something happened that shattered her last bit of dignity. Ryan, the man she risked everything for, dumped her. She showed up at my door late one night, looking disheveled, eyes red and swollen. "Can we talk?" she croaked. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "What do you want, Emily?" She stepped inside, wringing her hands. "Ryan, he left me." I raised a brow. "And I'm supposed to care why?" She swallowed hard, shame flickering in her eyes. "I was stupid. I ruined everything for a man who never really wanted me." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Karma's a bitch, huh?" She flinched. "I deserve that." Silence stretched between us. Then, in a broken whisper, she said, "I regret everything. Losing you is the worst mistake I've ever made." I stared at her, expression unreadable. Once upon a time, those words would have meant the world to me. Now, they were nothing but empty echoes. "Too little, too late," I muttered. Her face crumbled. "Can't we at least try again?" I tilted my head. "Let me ask you something, Emily. If he hadn't left you, would you still be here? If he had chosen you, would you still be fighting for our marriage?" Her silence spoke volumes. I nodded. "That's what I thought." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt no sympathy. "Go home," I said, voice firm. "We're done." Her lips trembled. I'll always love you." I met her gaze, my voice unwavering. "But I'll never love you again." She choked on a sob, turned on her heel, and walked out of my life for good. As I shut the door behind her, I felt something I hadn't in months. Freedom. The day our divorce was finalized, I didn't feel sorrow, I felt relief. The weight of betrayal had been dragging me down for months, but now? I was free. No more lies, no more pretending. The woman I once loved was gone, replaced by someone who had destroyed everything we built. And now, I no longer had to carry her burden. Emily, on the other hand, was a mess. I heard from mutual acquaintances that she was spiraling, drinking too much, barely holding on to her job, and making desperate attempts to find happiness in meaningless flings. Ryan, the man she threw everything away for, had humiliated her. He had been seeing multiple women at the same time, using her until he got bored. She lost everything. One evening, months after the divorce, I was sitting at a bar, nursing a whiskey, when I saw her. Emily. She was at the far end of the room, slumped over a cocktail, her once radiant smile nowhere to be seen. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes slightly disheveled. She looked defeated. She must have sensed my stare because her head lifted, and our eyes met. Shock flickered across her face, followed by something that looked like shame. I wasn't sure why, but I decided to walk over. Her lips parted as I approached. I heard about Ryan, I said coolly, taking the seat beside her. Her eyes filled with emotion. I deserved it, she murmured. I didn't argue. She did. She looked down at her drink. I don't expect you to care, but I hate myself for what I did to us. I let her words hang in the air before responding. Do you regret cheating or do you regret losing me? She exhaled shakily. Both. I swirled the whiskey in my glass. Regret doesn't erase what happened. She nodded slowly. I know. For the first time, I saw true pain in her expression, not just sadness over losing the life she had, but genuine guilt. It didn't change anything. It was far too late for that. She hesitated, then whispered, Do you ever think about what we had? I met her gaze. I think about how I gave my heart to someone who didn't deserve it. Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't argue. She couldn't. I stood up, dropping some cash on the bar. Take care of yourself, Emily. As I walked away, she called out softly, You deserve better. I didn't stop. I already knew that. A new chapter. Months turned into a year. I focused on myself, hitting the gym, traveling, spending time with people who actually valued me. Slowly, the pain of betrayal faded, replaced by something stronger. One night, at a friend's wedding, I met Sophia. She was different from Emily in every way, kind, genuine, filled with warmth. There was no pretense, no deception. Just real connection. As we danced beneath the fairy lights, I realized something. Emily's betrayal wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning of something greater. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly happy.